Matt. Welcome on Director Talks. And how are you doing today?
I'm doing so well, Mary. Thank you so much for having me today. This is going to be a great conversation. I'm really looking forward to it.
Thank you so much. So, before we start talking about Somewhere in Montana, your new feature film, could you tell us something about yourself, your background? Do you always wanted to be an actor, a producer, or was it something else on your mind?
Absolutely. I mean, I've had the bug inside of me since I can remember. I was a kid that just grew up and had that, creativity and just loved to tell great stories. So, 4 years old, I got into the local theaters in my area in rural Virginia in the United States, and then it kind of branched out to moving to New York City. I actually got to live with my grandmother there during college, and I just took in the city. I think so much of being an artist is finding your people, finding people that you align with. And that was a really big part of it for me when I moved to New York City. I just realized how much I fit in. And I had never felt that way. And it's a beautiful feeling, right? So it just kind of sparked my interest to, just auditioning for whatever I could. I was Equity at the time, which is Actors Equity for your listeners, is the union that is the Broadway union in the United States. And so I got my Equity card. I did a national tour, and I came back to the city and just kept auditioning. And I met a girl. I met a girl in an acting class, and we actually, ironically,
Click.
are from the same exact hometown in Front Royal, Virginia. So we have a lot of the backstory, and my girlfriend then, now my wife, we moved out to LA, and the dream continues. She's a writer. She's won awards as a writer, and I'm an actor and getting into producing. So we started our own production company, Dragon Hunter Productions. Her maiden name actually is Hunter. My name Drago, so Drago and Hunter Productions, Dragon Hunter Productions. And yeah, just the journey continues. I've got this great film out right now that I'm really excited about, and Laura is making her first short film at Film Independent this year. So lots going on. Just really grateful for it. I feel like I've never been in the sweeter spot of my artistic career than I am right now.
That sounds really great. So, what made you choose this role for Somewhere in Montana? Like, is it your passion project? What may inspired you to get into it?
Absolutely. I'm an actor on it. So the way that I actually found the role was through a mutual friend. And I've always kind of been the type of person to try to help out other actors and help out really anybody in my life that I can, right? And I had a wonderful friend that had moved down with her husband to Valencia, California, where I live, which is in the Santa Clarita Valley. And we worked at the same steak restaurant, Larson Steakhouse in Valencia. And she was looking for an agent and couldn't find one. So I had an agent at the time, and I asked her to get in touch with my agent to see if maybe he would take her on his roster, and he did. And a couple years ago in 2019, she decided to move back with her family. I think she had two kids at the time. Now she has three kids with her husband Kyle, and it was just the sweetest thing. I remember this call a few years back, and she calls me up out of the blue. Her name's Zuzu Weingart, and her husband Kyle Weingart, and she just said, "Listen, Matt, I actually have a friend named Brandon Smith, and he wrote this script." And every time I read one of the lead characters, I see your face. And it was this really inspiring, humbling moment where, it was a friend looking out for a friend. And at that point, she sent me the script. She sent me everything I needed to put myself on tape for it. And I read the script 3 times in a row. I just loved the story. I felt very connected to it. I felt very connected to the character. The character Fabian Verdugo is very legacy driven. It's very much a part of who I am as Matt. So I felt instantly connected with the character, put myself on tape for it, waited 3 or 4 weeks as we're used to in the acting world. And I always say to actors, like, enjoy the audition process, give it away, and you have to move on to the next. That's part of the job, right? So a few weeks later, I get a call that I'm going to get a producer session with Eden Bryant, the producer, and Brandon Smith, the writer director of the project, and Jared Brocksterman, the casting director locally in Montana. And we just gosh, we were on the Zoom just like this right now for about 45 minutes, and we talked through, just the project. And I honestly found myself for the first time, Mary, just so curious about the film and what it spoke to, because it really is a story of the times. It dives deep into social, cultural, political and religious values, and a lot of the struggles that we find within our own country in America. And so I just found myself just really asking a lot of questions. Not even, I think we ran the scene once, and just getting off the call feeling like, it was a really good connection. And sometimes that's all you can do, and then you have to let it go again, right? So about a month passed, and Jared called me up and gave me the great news that I'd been granted the role. And I say this all the time, and I say this especially for me as an actor, is I hung up the phone, and my first thought, honest to God, was, okay, now it's time to get to work. Because the work really begins when you get the role, right? It's like you have to, achieve it, but then you have to earn it. And so, this story and this cast and this crew that Brandon Smith put together along with Eden Bryant was just extraordinary. We became a family. We'd go on hikes together. We'd have our meals together. And this story really resonates because of all of the energy off screen that we put into it when you see the final project on screen.
So I believe the movie has already released, right?
Yeah, it just came out in theaters on January 10th, and it's hopefully going to get to more theaters in the next few weeks. Eventually, it will come to VOD and streaming as well.
So what I wanted to ask here is, it's kind of a neoclassical western, um, like based on cowboy kind of a thing. Like it's quite the rage right now with Yellowstone and Taylor Sheridan creating this universe about western classics. So is it kind of similar? Because people are like, audiences are more interested right now. They are getting used to these things, it's getting popular, especially the Yellowstone series is very popular. So what do you think regarding that?
For sure. I mean, I think it definitely has elements of, the area, but as far as the crux of the project, I definitely think it's very different. It is a piece about, well, I'll just tell you what it's about. I mean, it's a West Coast director, Fabian Verdugo, that's the role that I play, and John Alexander, who is, played by my friend Graham McTavish, who is an extraordinary pro, an incredible actor, and now I'm grateful to call a friend. And he actually calls me mate, which is a sign of camaraderie in Scottish culture, which really, just brings me a lot of joy just to be able to have that connection with such a seasoned and professional actor. Um, it really speaks to the fact that we are from two opposing worlds, but yet we're thrust in a situation where we need each other. I need his location for a legacy project as a director, and my incredible producer, Kat, who's like a, sister figure for me in the film, and actually kind of became a sister figure for me off screen as well, Michelle Hurd, who I just honestly don't have enough marvelous things to say about. She's an incredible person. She's such a compassionate soul, and she just loves her actors so much. And we became really, really close. And so, Kat finds this really grand location on John's ranch. Unbeknownst to Fabian and Kat, John needs the money from this production, or he's going to have to close his ranch because he's fallen on hard times financially. So basically, we are in a position in a crossroads where we really need each other. And I think that actually stems, a lot of the conflict initially because we're such different people. Getting back to the legacy part of this film is that, John sees that my film coming to his ranch and shooting parts of it become part of his legacy because the ranch will always be known for this film that was shot on it. And we actually discovered that a lot within the actual owners of the active cattle ranch that we shot on in Polson, Montana, because they were even unsure if they wanted a film to be shooting on their property, right? So there were a lot of different levels of this film, but essentially, Brandon writes this masterpiece in how can we start to find mutual respect for each other? Because I've always found in my life that that is the highest form of love. If you really start to see the person and let them in, it's harder to hate them for a couple things, maybe on social media or a couple things that we cancel each other for. We start to like unmask the person a little bit more. And we do a great job of, having our moments. I think this is a very unique story in that we are both protagonists and antagonists of the same story. So we antagonize each other, make no, absolutely, we absolutely antagonize each other. But we find ways to see each other. And I think that's the power of this story is when we actually start to get past like the initial response to each other, the anger, the frustration, we start to let each other in, and then we start to find some common ground together. And that's what makes this story so powerful.
Okay. So, as an actor, were you involved in the scripting process as well in the storyline, the plot line? Did you give your remarks or ideas while filming?
Yeah, it's a very unique process with this one because essentially I was able to work with Brandon Smith, again, writer and director of the film, and we'd get on Zoom calls just like this, and we would work scene by scene by scene. And it was pretty extraordinary because he wrote the two lead characters of John and Fabian as almost like two parts of his own, self, right? It's common, right? Write what you know. And there are parts of him in John and Fabian. So in working with him as someone who is not a director in my real life, maybe someday, but in this project, the actor. I felt myself really gleaning a lot from these conversations with him and really learning what it was that he wanted from the character. Because you have to remember, it's really wonderful when you get to work hand in hand with the writer because that is essentially the spark of where the character is born. So in talking to him over Zoom, and going through each scene together, it really gave me the opportunity also to study him and study what he wanted me to bring to the character. But Brandon is also an incredible collaborator in that he wanted me to bring my own self to the project. So it wasn't like a all or nothing where it was like, I want you to play it this way. No, it was, let me talk to you about how I envisioned the character and then bring your own elements within that to fill it out. And I really look back on those times all the time, Mary, because it was, the pre-production phase of films are more simple, right? Usually it's what I say, like actors' time, really to do their work is in pre-production, and through their own process. And this process was just fascinating to me because it gave me the opportunity to explore not only my own character and how I was developing it, but it also gave me the opportunity to develop a great relationship that I have with Brandon as well.
So, tell me, what is more easy, being a producer or being an actor?
Hmm, that's a great question. I think both have their challenges, if I'm being honest. Acting is a lot harder than people give it credit for. I think a lot of people that aren't in the industry like we are, they see acting as kind of outward facing, where they look at people on the red carpets, they look at people at the award shows, and they essentially forget the long days and the amount of effort that actors really put into their roles. I mean, I'll speak to my process a little bit. I just go deep into structuring the character with writing journals and backstories and really figuring out how the character behaves. Because a lot of acting is about behavior. It's a lot of stuff that's not on the line, it's in between the moments. And when you do all of that work, it really does become the magic when you get on set and you're around other actors that also do the work. So, to answer your question, producing is also very difficult. I will say that I think acting is more of an emotional process, and producing is more of an intellectual process. Producing is about structuring the pieces together. It's about juggling. I think about Eden, Bryant, our producer on Somewhere in Montana. She was all over the place. I mean, she literally had to pull so many moving parts together to keep this film on track, to keep the locations on track, to make sure that we got everything that we needed every day, to keep schedules aligned. Also, Joe Borden, who really honestly he was so special in the film because he's also one of the funniest guys I've ever met. And so just his like really, really positive spirit really just cast a net of just joy amongst all of us with the film. And he was his extraordinary gift is really finding the investors. He was really good at finding different investors, including Bozeman Spirit. Shout out to them for being part of our bar scene and helping us produce the film. So producing, I think, is a lot, like I said, more intellectual, more in the brain, and I think acting is a lot more from the heart. So both uniquely different roles, but both obviously incredibly vital to the finished product of a film.
Right. So as a producer, you are presently doing some projects, like it's under production. What is it about, like your feature film that you're producing?
Yeah, I always say that the best collaborator that you can have in life is someone you love, right? And I am a collaborator with my wife. We have our own production company, Dragon Hunter Productions. And we are kind of figuring out the different roles that we can play within that production company. I see obviously me as the actor, her as the writer, but we're also thinking that, based on kind of my business credentials, I work in real estate as well, that, I would be really good at, talking to people and producing. I also really want her to direct because I think there's an incredible marriage that happens between writer and director because they are creating the story at the beginning when they're putting the words on the page, and then they can articulate that to the cast and the crew when they're ready to shoot it. Uh, Even if she co-directs it, because there's a lot of technical jargon in directing, as you know, I do think that it would be a really great starting point for her to see if she likes the process of directing, or if she'd rather just kind of maybe be producing along with me, and she can focus on the writing and I can focus on the writing or on the acting.
Hmm.
So the next step for us is very much in the vein of Fabian Verdugo, because a lot of the feedback that we got for Somewhere in Montana was how much it meant to the people of this town in Polson, Montana, to have a spotlight shown on their little corner of the world. And I feel like a lot of the dissonance in our country comes from the fact that, a lot of these smaller pockets of our country don't have a voice, or they don't feel like they're being heard or seen. And so that's pretty much the motto of Dragon Hunter Productions, is to bring stories to little pockets of the country. And so we've got a Christmas story that we're working on right now. It's called Christmas in Helton. Our home in Front Royal, Virginia, believe it or not, originally on the map was called Helltown in the Confederate area. And so we have a lot of backstory there. We always have felt that Front Royal, Virginia has just a very strange vibe to it, almost like there's like a good, like almost like devilish spirit there that brings people together, like almost like kind of like a naughty demon that's not all bad but like has some like demonic elements to it. So, and the people that are from Front Royal, they're good people. They're working people. They're a lot to do with who I am right now as I talk to you in this moment. And we just really want to give back to our town because I think what I've realized is as much as I love acting, I love collaborating. And collaborating means building your team. It means building people around you that lift you up and can be part of your same dream. And so when I think about bringing a film back to Front Royal, it brings me so much joy because I'll be asking for those built-ins for, that person to donate a meal or, that person to maybe, invest in the film. So it's something that's really inspiring us right now in our next chapter in our creative careers.
Right. So before I wrap up the interview, I would like to ask, why would the audience connect to somewhere in Montana? Like, what is so special about it that they will find it, heart touching?
Absolutely. I mean, I think if you're in the world right now, I think it's pretty easy to turn on the news or go on social media and just understand this massive dissonance that we're feeling amongst each other. There's a lot of, differing opinions. There's a lot of, frankly, hate and anger amongst different people. And I think this film really speaks to the power in figuring out a way to work through it. I think what Brandon did with writing this film is he realized that, you don't have to agree on everything. And the way that, Graham and I approach this 10-page scene that we have is very much in that vein. It's that we don't agree with each other. We are two vastly different people, but we start to see each other. And I think if you can start to see someone maybe that is what you would consider like an opposing force or somebody that doesn't align with you politically, socially, religiously, I think you can start to at least examine what it is that makes them click. And if you feel, in your life that they are still a good person and they are working towards something and, they are driven like John Alexander is by his family and his legacy, I think you can start to let a little bit of that initial response to hating them back melt away and you can start to work forward. So it really is a story of the times. I invite people to seek it. If you want the best way to seek it, look at my social media on Instagram. Give me a follow there at Matt Drago, MattDrago. From there, I've got all my links. If you want to see my acting website, mattdrago.com. I also have my production website under my link tree, dragonhunterproductions.com. I share things from my, professional life. I also share things from my personal life because it's a journey, right? And I don't want to keep the two mutually exclusive. So give me a follow there. Go out and see a great film. We appreciate your support. And again, it is a story that I think resonates with the current times that we're in. And honestly, Mary, that's why I got into film, was to leave a couple great stories behind while I'm on this planet and in my life.
And that's amazing. So thank you so much, Matt, for being on Director Talks tonight. And I wish you all the best for your future projects and your film somewhere in Montana. And I hope I'll see it too someday, whenever it releases in India or maybe online if I can watch it. I really wish you all the luck. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Mary. It's been a pleasure. I appreciate you having me on your show today.